everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is Angela, and for today I've planned a little bit of a Malazan analysis video, for a better name for it. Erikson always has this interesting image of the burrow when he talks about how he develops his imagery and also how he develops his themes. And I thought I'd stay with this archaeological imagery and call this Excavating Malazan. So where Erikson is piling one layer on another. So a burrow is normally like a burial chamber with some type of stone structure and then earth on top, and on top this eventually grass will grow and sheep will graze or goats, and so I will go the other way and dig in and see what treasures I might come up with. Now this also means this will be spoilers. I haven't learned yet how to do an analysis video without spoilers. So sorry if you haven't read Malazan, especially if you haven't read Deadhouse Gates or Memories of Ice, then unfortunately, especially if you really mind spoilers, because this will be full on spoilers, then yeah, unfortunately this video will not be for you. So for today I thought I'd look at mercy, and especially at those cases where mercy goes wrong, where mercy might appear misguided, or where we find out that the merciful act has an enormous cost attached to it. And I will be looking mostly at Memories of Ice, but also a little bit at Deadhouse Gates. Malazan's main topic is compassion, and this topic is looked at from very different angles in the whole series of the books. And the same goes for related themes like redemption, empathy, but also for mercy. And I want to look a little bit at how does this work for the theme of mercy. We're introduced to this idea that well-intentioned acts can get horribly wrong already in Deadhouse Gates. And in Deadhouse Gates, this is also already linked to mercy. Most prominent probably in the Felicen Tavor story arc. Tavor, sentenced her sister Felicen to a life in the Otateral mines, and we are not quite sure does she do this out of mercy, because we never ever get Tavor as a viewpoint character in Deadhouse Gates. So we can only speculate, but one of the speculations that we also get from other characters about Tavor is that she does this out of mercy, that she does this to spare her sister, that her sister will not be killed in the cull of the nobles that will go underway. And that's sentence her to hard labor in a mine that might as well still kill her, is her way to save her little sister and show mercy of some type. But this idea goes terribly wrong, as we as readers find out who follow Felicen and her story arc. And we see the cost that this merciful act is actually putting on Felicen. So Deadhouse Gates gives us more the consequences of a merciful action, and not so much for the person who commits the merciful act, but more so for the person the merciful act was intended for, in this case Felicen. We might already have our doubts about Tavor, and is this really mercy what we're looking at? As I say, we only get different speculations about why she behaves the way she behaves. In Memories of Ice, we actually get her brother Paran's, Ganos Paran's idea or assessment of why his sister is doing what she's doing, and he is much less favorable and says, I'm not so sure, because according to him, he says that yes, she might kind of like get my sister back out of the mines, but, and this is what he says, only if Tavor judges it to be without risk to her reputation. And he continues then and says, well, she does not care. She doesn't care about what people think about her. Never did. I mean her professional reputation, Commander, in the eyes of the Empress and her court. For Tavor, nothing else will matter. So her brother, Ganos, has a much bleaker assessment of what in Deadhouse Gates appears as mercy and might have been meant as a merciful act. The other prominent example in Deadhouse Gates is, of course, the Cultane mercy killing, so to say. Here again, we see that the cost might be much, much higher than we originally have thought it might be. And again, it might be higher, more so for other people than for the person who intends this act of mercy. When Commander Blistic orders Cultane to be killed to end his suffering, then of course, he is still standing there on the ramparts, seeing this crucifixion and seeing this suffering. But the cost of his order for Cultane to be killed is much, much higher for the soldier who in the end is actually taking the kill shot. So we again have this ambivalence that mercy, yes, of course, Cultane will be released from his suffering, but the person who has to do this is burdened then with a whole other host of problems, like guilt perhaps. No? Also, something that Commander Blistic doesn't know about is that by having Cultane killed, he puts his soul in jeopardy. Because Cultane gave the little amulet with the container that in case if he dies will then catch his soul and ensure that his soul will survive. He gave that to Duiker. So this container is gone, and we see in the aftermath of this scene that it takes a huge effort of magic to actually ensure that Cultane's soul is not lost. So again, we have this ambivalence of somebody thinking they're doing the right thing. No, this is what ethically is required. We do not want people to suffer. We end suffering wherever we can, but at the same time causing problems for other people and also causing a problem for the person this act of mercy was intended for. And this idea is continued in Memories of Ice. But I would also say Memories of Ice introduces something new. And this new thing that's introduced is, first of all, Memories of Ice opens the whole series, the Malazan Book of the Fallen, to a completely new level, to a almost cosmic dimension. And this happens already in the prologue, where the timeline is stretched enormously. We're suddenly confronted not just with the lifespan of the Malazan Empire, but it's suddenly hundreds and thousands of years that we're talking about. And in this prologue also, we again have an act of mercy. We have the Bonecaster who comes and rescues the two Jagut children. And she thinks she's sending them into a warren and they will be safe there. But instead, she sends them into the rent that was formed when the city of Morn got destroyed, and basically sentences them to, yeah, a life of eternal suffering in this suspended form. But she, of course, doesn't know this. Again, no? There is this, on the one hand, almost blessing of not knowing, of not having all the information on the side of the person who commits the act of mercy and thinks that they're acting in good faith, that they're doing the right thing. And only we as readers will find out much, much later that this is actually not the case. We find this cosmic dimension then linked to mercy when we look at Whiskey Jack and also when we look at Ganos Paran again. And I want to talk about those two scenes in particular. So the first one is when Whiskey Jack is intervening when Anomandarake wants to kill the Tenari women. It's kind of like after the siege of Kapustan, and the Tenari women are on a rampage. They're out in the plains, kind of like running towards them. And Anomandarake comes in with his sword Dragnipur and starts killing those women. And Whiskey Jack intervenes and says, no, this is not right. What are you doing? And his reasoning for this is that, yes, they are cannibals and yes, they're terrible people, but being killed by Dragnipur is a much, much harsher fate. And he says to Anomandarake, stop this. Huh? And Anomandarake's reaction to this is that he says, to one side, my friend, what I do is a mercy. And Whiskey Jack isn't having it and says, no, it is a judgment, Anomandarake. And he added, eyes on Dragnipur's black blade, a sentence. Because he knows that anybody killed by this sword, their soul will be captured forever in Dragnipur. And that this might be a worse fate than actually death. So he takes it upon himself to kind of like kill those women. He knows there has to be some type of punishment, and he decides, okay, if there has to be punishment, then I will do it, but at least this way I save their souls. But when he's finished, he realizes that his whole company was watching him. And of course, it's a bit a gray area, no? He could have captured them, they could have had proper proceedings, properly been sentenced to be executed, but he doesn't do this. He kills them. And at this stage, they're not combatants anymore. And he knows that he might have lost a lot of respect. No? And he kind of like sums this up very nicely by saying, to have witnessed this, so have witnessed him killing those women. Now I'm indeed damned, from this no return, no matter what the words of explanation, of justification, no matter the crimes committed by my victims, I have slain. Not soldiers, not armed opponents, but creatures assailed by madness, stunned, senseless, uncomprehending. So Whiskey Jack immediately finds out that what he considered mercy has a high price. And in this case, it's actually different from Deadhouse Gates. It's not the price that's paid or that might be fallout or consequences for whoever the mercy was aimed at. But this time it's the consequences, the price paid by the person who is actually committing a merciful act. In this case, Whiskey Jack. So this is kind of another difference between how mercy is presented and dealt with in Deadhouse Gates as compared then to Memories of Ice. And he also thinks that he understands Anamanda Rake's reaction much better now, no? That he interprets Anamanda Rake telling him, no, you should not do this, let me do the killing, that this was meant as an act of mercy towards him, Whiskey Jack. And he says, Lord of Moon's Spawn, you asked me to step aside and you called it a mercy. I misunderstood you. A mercy not to the women of the dead seed, but to me. Thus your sorrowed smile when I denied you. So already in this very short scene, kind of like this is just 3 pages so far, we have multiple layers and multiple switches of perspective of what mercy can mean, and who is merciful, out of what reasons, and who the mercy is aimed at. So we start off with Whiskey Jack wanting to be merciful towards the Tennis-Cowrie women, then finding out that this mercy has cost him dearly. Anamanda Rake telling him, but no, let me do the killing because I'm merciful by killing them. And then in a later step, Whiskey Jack realizing that this mercy might have been aimed towards him and not towards the victims of Dragnipur. So this is kind of like chapter 19, where we have Whiskey Jack taking it upon himself to kill out of mercy. In chapter 23, we encounter Ganos Paran again. And Ganos Paran now enters Dragnipur for a second time. So he entered the sword already in Gardens of the Moon. And now that he has found out he will be the master of the deck and what this might mean, he is back in Dragnipur because Nigel told him when he visited the Assad house that Dragnipur needs to be destroyed. And he wants to know more and wants to know better why is this and why does it need to be destroyed. Initially, he actually wants to talk to Anamanda Rake, the one who's wielding Dragnipur, but he finds himself back inside of the sword and encounters Draconos. Draconos, the brother of Krull, 2 elder gods, who we encounter ever so often, who seem to be pulling strings in the background all the time. And Ganos Paran learns about the cosmic cost that Whiskey Jack's act has. And we as the reader, of course, then also find out more about this cosmic dimension that has been introduced in the prologue and has resurfaced in the book. Ever so often we get glimpses of this throughout the book, and now towards the end of the book we're kind of like getting more of an explanation what this cosmic cost might actually be. Because when he enters Dragnipur and he encounters Draconos, Draconos tells him that Dragnipur needs to feed. Look around us, mortal. There are those who at long last fail in pulling this burden. They are carried to the wagon, then and tossed onto it. You think this preferable? Too weak to move, they are soon buried by those like them, buried, trapped for eternity. And the more the wagon bears, the greater its weight, the more difficult the burden for those of us still able to heave on these chains. Do you understand? Dragnipur needs to feed. We require fresh legs. And he explains to Ganos Paran that he forged Dragnipur because they were afraid that the cosmic forces might kind of like not work the way that they should work, that chaos will kind of like that chaos will catch up, this way around, that chaos will catch up with darkness. No? So we have two cosmic forces, darkness and chaos, which are now trapped inside of this sword. We have the wagon of House Darkness that is pulled by all the people that are killed by the sword Dragnipur. They are pulling this wagon along, and we have chaos chasing them. And this chase has gone on forever and has gone outside of the sword of Dragnipur, but chaos was kind of coming closer and closer to darkness. And the elder gods were afraid that this will cause an enormous cosmic imbalance. And Draconis' idea and solution, and what he considered then again a mercy, was to forge the sword Dragnipur and ensure by this sword being used that there will always be enough souls to pull the wagon of darkness and make sure that chaos will not be able to catch up. And by that, by time until they find a different solution. But this different solution hasn't been forthcoming. And he thinks Anomandarake is just too merciful. He says, explain to him this truth, mortal, so to Anomandarake, explain to him this truth. He is too merciful to wield Dragnipur. The situation is growing desperate. So by preventing Anomandarake to kill the Tenskauri women and have their souls chained to the wagon of darkness, Whiskey Jack actually caused more cosmic imbalance and made the situation even more desperate. And he, of course, doesn't know this, but Ganesh Puran now, as master of the deck, gets this information, and it also starts to dawn on him that he might be asked to somehow be some type of judge or umpire in this situation. And he said, well, you have chosen completely the wrong guy here. Now, what am I supposed to do? I can't help you. I have no idea how we're supposed to get out of this. But this second scene really shows that there might be much, much more at stake. That, we, especially as humans, when we want to show compassion, when we want to be merciful, we can only act in good faith. We will never have all the information. This might make our existence almost a little bit tragic, that no matter how we decide, we might make things worse in the end. Between those two scenes, between Whiskey Jack's act of mercy and then Ganesh Puran finding out about, there is something much, much higher at stake. This kind of like question of cosmic balance and how to maintain it. He's also told by Draconis that if Kalandan Brute wields his hammer, now he got the hammer to destroy the chains with which the crippled god is chained to the body of Burn. If he really does this, that Burn will wake up, and Burn waking up will mean the end of the world. That's the end. Everything will die. When Burn wakes up, everything else will die. But also that cosmic forces don't care. They have no compassion. They have no mercy. Burn waking up is just starting another cosmic cycle. And it has gone on for eternity, and it will go on for eternity. And we are just a little blip in this. So the cosmic forces don't care. But we as humans, we perhaps should care, can't help caring maybe even. So those are, I mean, I don't have the answer to this, but those are questions that I think Erikson wants us to ask. So between chapter kind of like 23 and 19, or just before 23, in chapter 22, we have one of Erikson's kind like epigraph poems. It's a very short one, deceptively short, I think, and also it's a little bit like a riddle almost. I will just read it out because, as I say, it's super short. Glass is sand and sand is glass. The ant dancing blind as blind ants do, on the lip of the rim and the rim of the lip. White in the night and grey in the day. Smiling spider, she never smiles, but smile she does. So the ant never sees, blind as it is, and now was. And it says then, Tales to Scare Children by Malazan the Vindictive. Yeah, vindictive indeed. So as I say, it sounds almost like a little riddle. It has those undertones of fairy tales, tales to scare children. Maybe also nursery rhymes, Itsy Bitsy Spider, and so on. Yeah, so why is this poem important? Why is it important when we're talking about mercy? And I would say the poem is important because it describes a situation that those people who commit those acts of mercy might find themselves in. So the situation described in the poem is that we have an ant dancing on the rim of a glass. So you're sitting outside, you have your lemonade, and a little ant found your glass and is kind of like walking along the rim, and it might go a little bit inside of the glass and then might come out again, then along the rim a little bit, and on it goes. So this is what the first stanza, or better the first 2.5 lines describe to us. The ant dancing blind as blind ants do on the lip of the rim of the glass. And the rim of the lip. And what lip we are talking about is then only revealed in the next stanza. White in the night and grey in the day, smiling spider. So the lip the ant is dancing on, or the rim of the lip she's dancing on, is the lip of the spider's mouth. Smiling spider, she never smiles, but smile she does. So the ant never sees, blind as it is. So the ant is not able to discriminate between, is this still the lip of the rim of the glass, or is the ant already crossing the rim of the lip of the mouth of the spider? And yes, the ant crosses because the last line is, and now was. So this isn't going well for the ant. The ant dies. The ant is eaten by the spider in the end. And I think this describes very well us humans, and our relationship to those acts of compassion, our relationship to those acts of mercy. We are the blind spider. We are the blind ant. We never know when we are kind of like walking straight into the mouth of the spider. We can only act in good faith. We can only say, okay, I need to act mercifully, or I need to show compassion, no matter what. The consequences might be quite drastic, as the consequences are drastic for the ant in this little poem. The other reason why I think it's important, I think it's one of those poems where Erikson explains in a bit of hidden format to us how he works. This flip that we have in the poem, from rim of the lip to from lip of the rim to rim of the lip. We see this flip in all those kind of like scenes that I was talking about, where mercy suddenly flips into something very, very different. And this mechanism is employed over and over by Erikson. We see this multiple times, not just for mercy. We see this with other concepts that he uses as well. And I also think that makes reading Malazan at times so awfully frustrating. No? Whenever we think that we have figured it out, that we know where we are in this text, we know what this means, we know who the good guy is, we know what the good deed is, it flips and things can be suddenly very, very different. So I personally, I feel almost a little bit, at least, like this aunt in this Malazan poem. No? I never know where exactly am I dancing. Am I still on the rim of the glass, or have I already left that and walked straight into one of Erikson's traps that he has there for me as a reader? No? It's kind of like straight into the author's trap, and everything is flipped on its head again. Okay, I hope that this was at least a little bit interesting for you. Thank you for watching, and happy reading, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you.